Welcome back. It has been a minute. Happy Thanksgiving. I hope you all had a great weekend. Took a bit of a break, but I'm back. I did try on Wednesday, but I was on my laptop, so I'll be going over that price action today. Don't remember the exact date. It was, give me one second, November 26th, 2025. That was a Wednesday. And then today's PA, December 1st, which is a Monday. So going on to that Wednesday, sorry that this is a late trade recap, but it's still gonna get out. Um, Basically, we've taken all this 4 hour sell side, or at least a good amount, up to this last low resistance liquidity point. So, but now that we've displaced from this sort of consolidation area, I'm more focused on this price action and above. We've SMT'd these highs, so we're either going to just continue going up through it or get some sort of rebalance to continue all the way down lower. So either way, I'm more so bearish bias on just needing a rebalance if we're going to continue higher. And then dropping down to the low time frame, we had these equal lows, these unfilled 15-minute gaps right here, which this was my draw on liquidity for the day, to either, we're going to just go up to here or we're going to go down to here before going up. So it was kind of an agreed upon low between if you want to take shorts, you wanted to go down. If you wanted to take longs, you wanted to go down first to be able to take your longs. So this was kind of just a low resistance liquidity with equal lows right here. And with that in mind, I waited for the day to open. We ended up sweeping the London high over here. As you can see, let me mark this out. London high got swept, so at this point I'm waiting for this high to get stop rated. Not falling into any FOMO. And then what time is this? So 9:45 opens right here, and you can see that we trade up, and what do? That 15-minute candle manipulates this high. So now looking at the 4-minute, we get a 4-minute IFVG. So that's what I just market entered off of. My stop was at the wick high of this body, expecting this to be a distribution, so I'm not really expecting a super deep retrace. And if anything, we have this first present 1-minute bearish fair value gap that I wouldn't want to see get hit until much later, if it's really going to be a good distribution move. So at minimum, this should hold us down, but it ended up just running, and my break-even point was once we got back below this, because at that point we've already done this retrace right here, so no need to really retrace. If we are going to retrace, we're probably just going to hunt this liquidity again. But that was a super easy day. 15-minute draw got hit. I just took my 1-to-1 because I'm on evals for December, and it was also the day before Thanksgiving. So going into today, go ahead and delete this. Going into today's price action, what was I looking at? Well, we had this daily gap that we were kind of bouncing around on, and we were inside this one, bearish off of this one and bullish off of this one. So it's kind of, you got to trade more internally. But if anything, what are we doing to these bearish gaps? We're kind of just ripping through them overall in a bullish trend, and we're breaking through these SMTs, probably going to next highs, and eventually back to all-time highs within the coming days or weeks. So let me go to market open. Looking at the 15-minute, we have a 15-minute gap right here that was just created out of a 4-hour gap, I believe. Yeah, this 4-hour, I don't think that was quite closed through yet. But we have this 15-minute gap that I'm going to use as my condition. If we close through it, then I'll probably be bearish, back down to these relative equal lows. But if we're going to be bullish, there's this obvious swing high up here that we'll probably just run to. And we had these 15-minute equal highs and an hourly fair value gap up here. So market opened, we had a failure swing right here, and then we ended up having a 30-second fair value gap that you could have taken a long off of. I didn't, just because we printed equal lows right here. So it was also closed at 9:45 open, which if we have 945 opening with equal lows, it's probably not going to be ideal, and I'll go over a reasoning for this. So what do? 930, we have this LR generated, right? And then 930 opens, it adds to this low resistance liquidity right here, and then we trade lower into our 15-minute gap. So now when we make those equal lows, and then 945 opens right here, kind of would expect that 945 to go take those equal lows before getting that actual inverse right here, and then, you know, continuing up to this LR. But it ended up just distributing off these equal lows and not really a 945 manipulation. So at that point I was waiting to see how we reacted, and we ended up putting in 15-minute and 2 5-minute gaps. So this was our premium 5-minute gap, which if we have 2 on the leg, you're going to want that more discounted if you're taking longs, or premium if you're taking shorts. So wait for that to get traded back into. We had news at 10 as well, so just be very patient, you know, like price going to chop around until 10 a.m. 10 a.m. opens up and we start trading lower, and then 10:30 right here. What does 10:30's open do? Well, we wick this 1 minute for value gap, but is that really significant? Not really. Then we end up trading lower and into our first presented 5-minute fair value gap, which is going to be our strongest fair value gap. I could go over a video on that later. If enough people wanted me to, I could describe those better. But just know that your first presenters are going to be your strongest. So example, this 1 minute that made the distribution move. Notice how we react off of this one very harshly too. So we get that super V-shaped recovery inversing both of these gaps. And we have a bunch of low resistance liquidity right here. Right, so I was looking at, do we have a 5-minute? No. Is there a 4-minute? No. Is there a 2-minute? No. There was only this 3-minute gap, but we had an intermediate term high inside of it. So at this point, price has been pretty choppy. I normally don't like, I'd like to not be as aggressive on when it's just chopping like this. I'd rather have, like, you know, significant, I'd rather it look like this where we have a gap on the way down. That way it needs to get rebalanced, compared to just taking liquidity. Like obviously this would be good if we still had that unfilled 1 hour up here, but we've already filled it. So I am still bullish on the day, considering that we just displaced through it, and now we're like slowly coming back down and then get large displacement through it again. So that's where I took my second entry. And I was just targeting this high because it was a high inside of a 1 minute, and it was closer to a 1-to-1, which in December I'm going to be a 1-to-1 demon. Like I am just targeting 1-to-1s. I've backtested, you know, like 4 years of December in the past month or so, just knowing, you know, hey, you're gonna get a better win rate with just 1-to-1s. You know, even if you're pushing it for this, it might come up to here and then get break even. But 1-to-1, you know, you get lucky, I guess, more times than not. So just targeting a 1-to-1 on this. Ended up trading into my break-even spot, which was that 3-minute intermediate term high, and then ended up getting break-even for it to just go ahead and play out, which, unfortunate. Break-even rated, sort of. I definitely could have held. Looking back at it in hindsight, this 3-minute gap is not, like, what's it? It's only defending low resistance liquidity. It's not defending already manipulated liquidity. So I wrote down in my notes that essentially a gap is only worth what it's defending, where say that we have this gap, right? What's it defending? Low resistance liquidity. So we should expect this gap to get filled. This gap getting filled again, it's not really detrimental to where my stop loss is placed. Like, sure, we could come back to my break-even spot, but even when we take this, I'm not expecting our stop loss to get hit before this high. So honestly, something that I need to improve on, that was more so a pattern-based break-even, just being an intermediate term high. Although it was choppy price action, so it's just December PA, but again, I am going to start trying to do that, you know, hold off on going break even so early. But yeah, overall, I'm happy with the way that I traded. And if you have any questions, let me know. Comment, DM me on Instagram. I'll put that below in the description, as well as the Discord that I trade in every single morning. It's free, so tap in. And yeah, I'll see y'all all tomorrow if I take a trade.